I would like to welcome today Rebecca Siegel. Rebecca is a psychologist who specialises in one-on-one relationship and group-based counselling. Some of her experience includes mediation, conflict resolution, traumatic incident debriefing and stress management. Now, Rebecca is going to talk with me today about how our emotions and our thought patterns feel sometimes like they're out of our control and what we can do to help us in times when our thoughts actually cause us more harm than good. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming, because I just think it's something that we all go through at some point, you know, and we've all got minds, and unfortunately sometimes they cause us more harm than good, you know.
Absolutely.
So one of my first questions is that everyone has things that happen to them at some point that they can't control, whether it be a relationship breakup, a person that is horrible to them, or you know, just like a traumatic incident or something. So why can't we just get over these things? Why do situations like these play out in our minds?
Oh, such a big question and such a relevant one.
Yeah.
I think this is probably one of the biggest battles. Anytime that we experience anything traumatic, and by the way, trauma means different things to different people. So what one person finds traumatic, another one doesn't. And that's not to say one's strong and one's weak. It's just how we cope with it at the time, and a lot does depend on what we're going through at the time.
Yeah.
But, you know, whenever an event happens, what we try to do as humans is make sense of it. So the first question that anybody asks when something upsets them is why? Why has this happened? Why has this person done this? Why have I reacted that way? And that's the sign of an intelligent brain. It's trying to figure out, well, how has this happened? Because I don't want it to happen again.
Yeah.
The difficulty is most human emotions, or when we're dealing with other people or events, there is no answer to why. So what happens is we start to guess, or we start to assume and say, well, it must have been for that reason or that reason, or it keeps going over and over in our head. So what we're actually doing is just making assumptions, and it's just the brain kind of trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
The problem with this is the more that we ask, why has this happened? Why am I in this situation? Why have I reacted this way? The more we actually keep it alive, and we keep it in some ways a struggle. So the aim is basically to get to acceptance. So acceptance doesn't mean getting over it. Acceptance means getting through it. And the difference, I guess I see the difference as acceptance doesn't mean I forgive and I forget and it's all done and I've allowed that to happen. It means the events happen. Now what am I going to do? How am I going to deal with it from here, rather than I need to make it right, or I need to right some wrongs. Yeah. It's just we don't like that. It's a difficult experience. It's difficult to go through if we keep fighting. So that's why we want to get over it. Yeah. But we have to actually go through the process of getting through it to manage it.
So what about that kind of excessive thinking that, for an example of somebody that's not nice to you, who've got a boss or something like that. And it's really common that we have to deal with people like that. And, we can walk away from situations and go, gosh, I wish I'd said this or that, or, and that plays on our minds, and it nearly can drive you insane. How do people help? Obviously, what do we do in these situations that are kind of plaguing us in our mind?
Well, I would say in the example that you've just given, which is a really good one, when we're in a difficult situation and it's not as straightforward as just go, just leave your job, just leave your relationship, just leave that situation. And I think quite often when people say that, it can sometimes just trivialise what we're feeling, as if, it's not that simple or straightforward.
No.
In the example of, I would say, a difficult boss or any kind of difficult relationship, I would have a look at what are the parts that are affecting you. So not so much what the person's saying or what they're doing, but what comes up in you. So does it make you feel, when I say make, is it bringing up feelings of shame, humiliation or guilt or belittling? And is that actually the intention, or is that what you're experiencing? Or if that's all just too much, looking at the situation and saying, well, do I need to stay here? How's it affecting me? Or can I get up and go? And what you base your decision on is generally either love or fear. So when I say love or fear, to put it really simply, are you making a decision based on what you want or what you want to avoid?
Yes.
So I think a lot of the time we do make fear-based decisions. And so we say, I'll stay in this relationship, I'll stay in this job, I'll stay in this situation because what if? So the what if is, what if I don't get another job? Or what if things are worse? What if?
Yes.
But the more that we do that fear-based what if conservative thinking, we don't actually ever progress. We don't actually ever go anywhere. We never actually build. It's all based on staying safe.
So we kind of really need to look at exactly where we're coming from and why we've made the decision to put up with it.
Absolutely.
I suppose the thing is that, you know, sometimes, like you say, you know, we could leave the job because we were fearful that we didn't want to leave it. But there's sometimes like, you know, a family member or, you know, there's something in your life that, you know, whether you like it or not, that person's going to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's another really good one. And I think that comes up a lot. You know, we have to have a relationship with some people. We have to have a relationship with our colleagues. We have to have a relationship with some family members. And we don't always like them. And sometimes we're so focused on what they do to us or these perceived criticisms or whatever they might be, that we actually don't stop and go, well, hang on a second, I need to prioritise myself. If engaging in this, if thinking about this, if reacting to this is upsetting me, well, then I need to take a step back. So that would be, I guess, a decision based on love. So when I say decision based on love, we see that as the opposite of fear. So a fear-based decision is about staying safe, and a love-based decision is about what's going to enhance you and what's going to grow you, which might simply be, I don't know,
addressing the problem with the person. Would that be?
It might be, or it might even be a matter of, I'm not going to try and address the problem with the person, because the more that I talk to them and the more I try and resolve it, the more they don't get it and the more upset I get. So maybe out of love for myself and not wanting to feel upset, I'm going to walk away. And so that is actually, when I say love, it is about saying, well, I'm prioritising how I feel rather than the need to get that person to understand how I feel.
Yeah, okay. Because, I mean, and would it depend on the person? Because if you're the type of person that avoids the conflict and doesn't do it, they might be someone maybe that needs to address it. Would that be?
Well, or I suppose even looking at why people do avoid conflict. And that's another really interesting point. Every single day I hear people say, well, I've got this issue and I want to deal with it, but I'm not confrontational. I don't like conflict. And I always have to say to people, you know, conflict and confrontation are a consequence of not communicating. They're not actually a cause. So I think quite often it's our expectation and our fear. If I say this, it will end up in conflict and I won't manage the conflict. So that's what usually people are avoiding. Not so much, well, how will I behave? It's how will I feel in that situation? So much of what we do is based on what we think we're going to feel. So if I think to myself, oh, I'd really like to go for that job, but I think I'll get rejected and then I'll feel really bad, I'm not going to go for the job.
Yes.
So the job at the end of the day is just a job. It's how I think I'm going to feel or how I do feel that will actually dictate how I behave and how I think about myself and how I think about the world. So I think focusing more on that rather than the event is really important.
Okay. And we are amazingly running out of time because...
How did that happen?
I know, very quickly. But why, just a quick question, why does thinking about these awful situations or harbouring anger, why is that bad for us?
Well, the more that we think about it and the more that we try to understand a situation that doesn't make sense, the more we keep the painful emotions alive. So very, very briefly, as a strategy, and this is related to your question, quite often when we think about events in the past, whether they're an event, something we've done or something someone else has done, it does bring up feelings of anger or sadness or regret or disappointment, or we're rewriting the scenario and I wish I'd said this or that. And what it does is keep us fixed in the past and it stops us from actually seeing what's going on around us now and enjoying what's here now.
Yeah.
If we look too far to the future and what's going to happen and what if, we end up very fearful and worried.
Yeah.
And we can never account for what will happen. So
no,
the best strategy is to try to be present, to just try and be in the here and now. Trust yourself, trust that you'll be able to handle any situation. And the more that you're present, the less that those strong emotions take over you, I should say.
Well, I think that's some really, really solid, good advice for people to have a really think about, because it's, you know, it's universal. Everyone has these kinds of problems, don't they? It's just a different situational scenario. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you as a psychologist, where can they get more information about you?
They can email me directly, Rebecca Siegel Consulting, REBECCASIEGEL Consulting, I think you all know how to spell that, at gmail.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me.